Something is wrong.
Hold on to us, always.
Another one of these letters.
I will not let them scare us away.
Show your husband no more rubbish.
I went there once. What if it was her daughter?
No! No, 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 no!
This episode changes everything. And I'm not exaggerating. Episode 7 doesn't just raise the stakes. It completely shatters everything we thought was safe. Lives are at risk, loyalties are tested, and one heartbreaking moment might change the future of multiple characters forever. If you thought episode 6 was intense, then trust me, you are not ready for what happens next. The episode begins with a heavy sense of unease, as if something terrible is already set in motion, and no one can stop it. From the very first moments, we can feel that the peace we briefly saw is nothing more than an illusion. Jamie and Claire are once again pulled into a mystery connected to their past, and this is not just any memory. It is something deeply emotional, something that once nearly tore them apart. As they start searching for answers, we see a different side of them. They are not just trying to solve a problem, they are trying to protect what they have left. Every conversation, every glance between them carries weight, as if they both know that the truth they are chasing might hurt more than help. At the same time, a storm is building elsewhere, and this one is far more dangerous. Fergus and Marzali find themselves at the center of rising tension, and it quickly becomes clear that they are no longer safe. The situation escalates faster than anyone expects. The anger of the people around them grows, and it is not just fear, it is blame. They are being targeted, and there is no easy way out. What makes this even more painful is that they are not prepared for how far things will go. There is a moment where everything feels like it might calm down, but instead it explodes into chaos. And this is where the episode truly becomes devastating. The fire is not just an accident, it feels like a turning point. As the flames rise, so does the panic, and in that moment everything changes. The danger is real, immediate, and terrifying. What happens during this sequence is something that will stay with the audience for a long time. It is emotional, it is shocking, and most importantly, it feels unavoidable. You can sense that no matter what anyone does, the outcome will leave a mark. Back with Jamie, there is a growing realization that something is wrong, even before the news reaches him. That feeling, that instinct, it is something we have seen before, and it never comes without a cost. The way he reacts tells us everything. We are heading toward a moment that will test him like never before. And when the truth finally begins to surface, it does not come gently. It hits hard, and it changes the direction of everything that follows. But what makes this episode truly insane is not just the events. It is the emotional weight behind them. Every character is pushed to their limit. Every decision feels like it could lead to something worse. And by the end of this section, one thing becomes very clear. This is only the beginning of something much bigger, something much darker, and something that no one will be able to escape from. As the episode continues, the tension does not slow down for even a second. Instead, it starts to spread across every storyline like a growing fire that cannot be controlled. Jamie and Claire's search for answers becomes even more complicated as new details about the past tragedy begin to surface. But the more they discover, the more painful it becomes. It is not just about understanding what happened anymore. It is about realizing how deeply it still affects them. Claire especially begins to feel the weight of memories she thought she had already made peace with. And Jamie, as always, tries to stay strong. But even he cannot ignore the emotional cracks forming between truth and regret. At the same time, Fraser's Ridge is no longer the safe place it once was. 47989. And then comes the moment that changes everything, the fire. It spreads faster than anyone expects, turning panic into chaos in seconds. What makes this moment so intense is not just the destruction, but the helplessness around it. People are trapped between fear and survival, and there is no clear way to save everyone. The episode makes it painfully clear that this is not just an accident. It is a consequence of everything building up until now. Every hidden resentment, every silent grudge, everything finally explodes in the worst possible way. In the middle of all this, Jamie's instincts kick in again. He begins to sense that something is wrong even before he gets the full truth. That feeling of dread grows stronger with every passing moment, as if he is connected to the disaster in a way he cannot explain. Claire notices it too, and their bond becomes even more important in this moment. They do not need words to understand that something terrible is unfolding. It is written on their faces, in their silence, in the way they move closer to each other without even thinking. Meanwhile, William's storyline takes another sharp turn as the consequences of trust, betrayal, and emotional confusion begin to collide. His actions continue to pull him deeper into conflict, especially with Ben, and every conversation between them feels like it is building toward something irreversible. Amaranthus is caught in the middle of it all, and her choices are becoming more complicated than ever. She is not just reacting anymore. She is being forced to decide who she truly stands with, even if that decision destroys everything she has built so far. And just when it feels like things cannot get worse, the episode makes sure the audience knows one thing clearly. This is still not the end of the chaos. It is only the beginning of a much deeper breakdown, where every character will be forced to face consequences they can no longer avoid. As the episode moves forward, the emotional intensity reaches a whole new level. And this is where everything starts to feel deeply personal. The aftermath of the fire is not just about destruction. It is about loss, fear, and the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. Fergus and Marzali are completely shaken, and for the first time we see them not just struggling but breaking. The pain in their situation feels real and unavoidable, and the uncertainty around what exactly has been lost only makes it worse. Every second feels heavy, as if the truth is being delayed on purpose, making the moment even more unbearable for both them and the audience. At the same time, Claire steps into a role that goes beyond anything we have seen before. Faced with a situation that feels almost impossible, she is once again pushed to the limits of her abilities. But this time it is different. This is not just about healing a wound or saving a life in a normal way. This feels like a test of something much deeper, something that even she does not fully understand. The idea of her mysterious power, the blue light we have seen before, begins to feel more important than ever. There is a strong sense that this moment could define what that power truly means, and whether it can actually change fate, or if some things are simply meant to happen no matter what. Jamie, on the other hand, is dealing with a completely different kind of struggle. When the truth about what has happened finally starts to reach him, his reaction is not immediate anger or panic. It is something much more controlled, and somehow that makes it even more powerful. You can feel the weight of responsibility on him, the guilt of not being there, and the quiet fear that he might not be able to fix this. This is where Jamie's character really stands out, because instead of losing control, he becomes more focused, more determined, but also more emotionally vulnerable than we are used to seeing. Meanwhile, the situation with William, Ben, and Amaranthus takes a dramatic turn that no one can ignore anymore. The tension between William and Ben is no longer just about disagreement. It has turned into something much deeper, something that feels like a permanent break between them. Every word they exchange carries anger, betrayal, and disappointment. And in the middle of this, Amaranthus is forced into a position where she cannot stay neutral anymore. The choices she made earlier now come back to confront her, and it becomes clear that there is no way out without consequences. What makes this part of the episode so powerful is how everything feels connected. The emotional pain in one storyline reflects in another. The sense of loss, the feeling of being trapped by decisions, the fear of what comes next. It is all happening at the same time, building toward something even bigger. And just when it feels like the characters might find some clarity, the episode reminds us that they are still far from any kind of resolution. By the end of this section, one thing becomes painfully clear. The damage has already been done. No matter what happens next, nothing can go back to the way it was. And the most terrifying part is that the worst may still be yet to come. At the same time, the trailer subtly hints that external influences might start playing a bigger role in the story. New conversations, new perspectives, and possibly new alliances begin to form in the background. Nothing is fully revealed, but the way scenes are framed gives the impression that not everyone is being completely honest with each other. There is a growing sense that certain characters are holding back information, or at least not expressing their full truth. And in a story built on emotional tension, even small secrets can turn into major turning points later on. What makes all of this even more suspenseful is the way trust is being tested without being directly addressed. Nobody openly says they don't trust each other, but the actions, the hesitation, and the emotional distance are becoming more obvious with every passing moment. It's the kind of storytelling where the silence between characters starts to feel louder than their actual dialogue. An episode 4 seems to lean heavily into that emotional tension, making the audience constantly question what is real, what is assumed, and what is about to fall apart next. And somewhere in all of this emotional chaos, Montana continues to feel like a silent force shaping everything. The isolation, the distance from city life, and the lack of familiar comfort are pushing each character into corners they can't easily escape from. It almost feels like the environment itself is forcing reflection, forcing confrontation, and forcing change whether the characters are ready or not. By the end of this part of the trailer breakdown, the way he handles the situation shows both his strength and his humanity. He does not try to fix everything with words or actions, because he knows he cannot. Instead, he becomes a source of stability, someone others can rely on when everything else feels like it is falling apart. But even in his strength, there is a quiet sadness, a realization that being strong does not mean being unaffected. Meanwhile, the conflict between William and Ben reaches a breaking point. There is no turning back now. The bond they once had is completely shattered, and the anger between them feels final. Amaranthus, standing in the middle of this emotional battlefield, is forced to make a choice that will define her future. And no matter what she decides, it is clear that someone will be left hurt, someone will be left behind. This is not a situation where everyone can win, and that is what makes it so intense. What makes this section truly powerful is how everything feels final, yet unfinished at the same time. The characters have faced something life-changing, but there are still questions left unanswered, still emotions that have not fully settled. It feels like the calm after a storm, but a calm that is filled with uncertainty, as if another storm is already on its way. And just when it seems like the episode might start to slow down, it gives us one last reminder. This story is far from over.